We have, I'm probably jumping ahead, but we have bills before us right now that are along those lines, that just want to restrict and hamstring the business operation of the firearms industry in Massachusetts.
That's so interesting that instead, like you said, instead of going after the individual, because when you get the people mad, that's when you have a populist uprising and the government can't handle that.
Right.
So they go after the businesses because it's easier to handle. That's so interesting.
Yeah.
That's very maniacal.
Yeah, and the big that was tested and I would say implemented almost to perfection on July 20th, 2016, when Maura Healey woke up and decided to enforce laws that don't exist on the books. She said that for too long, firearms manufacturers and dealers are getting away with a assault weapons ban that has been on the books since 2004. It was the federal assault weapons ban from 2004, and it sunsetted federally in 2014. I'm sorry, 94 is when the assault weapons
Clinton,
ban
right?
went. Yeah, the 94 assault weapons ban went into effect. In 2004 is when it sunsetted federally. Massachusetts made it permanent in 98. So they decided to adopt the exact language of the federal assault weapons ban and then have it on the books because they knew in 2004 it was going to sunset. So they didn't want that to happen, so made it permanent. So Massachusetts has been living under the federal assault weapons ban since 1994. But in 2016, she decided to reinterpret it. She literally became judge, jury, and executioner all in one fell swoop. She acted as all three branches of government, the judiciary, the legislative, and the executive branch by her edict. It was this order that she put out, and it was an assault weapons ban enforcement letter that she sent, again, to the dealers. She didn't send it out to the 600,000 gun owners, sent it to the dealers and said, if you continue to sell these guns, and they were guns that were legal for sale the entire time federally from 94 to 2004. Not another attorney general in all 50 states interpreted the bill the way that she interpreted it. Even the federal government didn't interpret it the way she interpreted it. And so she twisted it around and threatened the dealers that if you do this, your license will be subject to revocation. You'll be facing a 10-year prison sentence and up to $10,000 fine.
Wow.
And ironically, they're like, we're going to fine you first $10,000 and that's going to fund your own prosecution. I'm like, what other industry does that? Or how does, police can't arrest you and then levy your bank account to fund your own prosecution, right? Yeah. That's not the way this works. You're presumed innocent until proven guilty.
Yeah.
And but they're saying, and again, she was stretching the assault weapons ban definition in ways that have never been recognized by any other attorney general throughout the entire country in that 10-year period.
Interesting.
Yeah. And now she's governor.
Yeah, now she's governor.
Yeah,
Yep.
So taking that was 2016.
Yep.
Let's bring it up to 2023. Now Maura Healey, no longer attorney general, she's governor of Massachusetts. And a new bill, I think this is a good time to bring it up, HD 4420, I think it's called something else now.
4139.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So can you just explain the bill for people who don't know, maybe are around the country, or if they live in Massachusetts and they want to get educated? Can you just explain that?
Kind of elevator pitch, kind of.
Yeah, the elevator pitch. Yeah, it's 100. It was originally 144 pages. Now, as written, it's 122, I think. So they were able to lop off 22 pages, which didn't do much. This bill was the largest and most comprehensive gun control bill in the history of our country anywhere. And I would argue that it is the most anti-civil rights bill ever been presented by any government anywhere in the history of our country. Wow. It really points a loaded gun at the most peaceful, law-abiding citizens in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, which is the gun owner. And that is the only thing it seeks to affect. They use all this anecdotal evidence of crime as the reason why they need to affect the most peaceful, responsible, law-abiding citizens in Massachusetts. I'm like, that's a solution in search of a problem. If you restrict my right to keep and bear arms, it's not going to lower crime because I'm not the one out committing crime. It's not going to lower the murder rate because I'm not the one out committing murders. If you want to, have a true conversation about how to lower crime, I'm at the table. Let's talk. But if you want to just point the loaded gun at the most peaceful, law-abiding citizens in Massachusetts, I reject that, number one. Number two, it's unconstitutional. Number three, the legislature doesn't possess the constitutional authority to do what they're doing. It is outside of their purview. There's constitutional limitations to their powers, and they cannot affect or deprive anyone of the right to keep and bear arms, or any right for that matter. So it's a much bigger issue. I think that the state is going to face some serious federal code violations because they are, in fact, going to deprive citizens of
Their natural rights.
Yeah.
So, to zoom out a little bit, I know that's good, that's specifics to know that. But why do you think that? Do you think they're doing this out of a place of like, we're just trying to protect people, or do you think there's a more like sinister thing behind it? They want to be able to have tyranny, and do you think it's more of that, or do you think they're genuinely concerned and just ignorant to?
I think there's two schools there. I think the people who are sophisticated enough to write law and run a campaign and get elected and have gone through law school, and a lot of times they've graduated from pretty good law schools. I think there's something much more nefarious involved there. I don't think they're dumb. I don't think they're stupid, and I don't think they're just out to. They know that, they can look at the same data I look at and see that defensive gun use happens between 500,000 and 3 million times a year. And all they can do is point to the 15,000 undesired outcomes of deaths with firearms, 15 to 20,000 a year. But yeah, what about the 500,000 to 3 million times firearms are used for defensive gun uses a year? Like if you just do a risk versus reward type of thing, that far outweighs the negatives of firearms in our culture. But so I think that they are far sophisticated enough to understand, gun control doesn't reduce crime, and it's the death by 1,000 cuts. They really do have an agenda and want to see guns banned from our society, whether it's from a position of tyranny or from a position of ignorance. I don't know. I honestly think there's probably some people out there that understand full well the role of the Second Amendment as far as government and say, this is a safety relief valve for the people of America. That's what the founders' intent of the Second Amendment was. It was a tyranny relief valve, if you will, to make sure that what our founders just overthrew could never happen again in America.